You lock your doors at night because you think it'll keep the monsters out. But what if the monster is already inside? That's what happened on the night of August 31st, 2024. A family, sound asleep. A father, a mother, 2 tiny babies, completely unaware that a killer was already there with them, moving in the dark. At 4:30 a.m., a fire broke out at a small home on Culver Road. The flames spread fast, too fast. Neighbors jolted awake to the sound of crackling wood, the smell of smoke. Within minutes, firefighters were on scene. They fought the flames, broke down the front door, rushed inside. What they found was a nightmare. Blood. So much blood. Fraime Ubaldo, the father, stabbed, his body sprawled on the floor. Marangely Moreno-Santiago, the mother, stabbed, her lifeless arms still outstretched, as if trying to reach for her children. And then, the babies. Evangeline, 4 years old, her tiny hands curled into fists, her body cold, lifeless. Sebastian, 2 years old, still in his crib, a place where he should have been safe, where he should have been dreaming. Instead, he never woke up. This wasn't an accident. This wasn't just a house fire. This was a massacre. And the man responsible, he wasn't just a murderer. He was a fugitive, a killer from another country, someone who was never supposed to be here. Someone who had already taken a life and been set free to take more. How did he get here? How did no one stop him? And why did an innocent family have to die so violently? Stay with me, because what you're about to hear next will make you sick to your stomach. At first, it looked like an accident, maybe a kitchen fire, a space heater left on. The neighbors watched from their windows, eyes barely open, wrapped in blankets. Someone grabbed their phone, half asleep, and called 911. They had no idea they were reporting a murder. No one did. Not yet. Caller: "There's a house on fire. Oh my God, it's getting worse. You have to hurry." Operator: "Ma'am, can you tell me the address?" Caller: "Culver Road, near the gas station. The whole thing's going up. I don't know if anyone's inside." Operator: "Stay on the line. Fire department is on the way." Caller: "It's the Ubaldo family's house." A beat of silence, and then the sound of sirens. The first fire truck pulled up in front of the house. Flames burst through the roof, curling like fingers toward the sky. The house was collapsing on itself. Firefighters jumped out, moving fast, hoses unfurling, water blasting, voices barking orders over the chaos. Inside, the air was thick, black with smoke, a choking heat, a suffocating death trap. One firefighter kicked down the front door. That's when he saw it. Blood. Not smoke, not burned furniture, but blood. A dark puddle of it. So much it looked like the walls were sweating red. The firefighter froze. His brain refused to process what he was looking at. Then, a body. It was first Fraime Ubaldo, the father, on his back, eyes wide open, stab wounds torn into his chest. The firefighter stumbled back, shouting for help. But then, another body. Marangely Moreno-Santiago, the mother, face down, a knife wound so deep it nearly split her in half. And then, the babies. Evangeline, 4 years old, Sebastian, 2. Evangeline was curled up, like she had been trying to make herself small, her tiny hands clutched into fists. Sebastian. He was still in his crib, a place where he should have been safe. His stuffed toy lay beside him, untouched. His blanket was pulled up to his chin. But he was gone. Murdered. Like he had been nothing. This wasn't a tragic accident. This wasn't a freak electrical fire. The fire had been set on purpose. Someone wanted to burn the evidence, to erase the crime, to make sure no one ever knew what really happened inside that house. But they failed, because the police saw everything. By sunrise, the house was a smouldering skeleton, The smell of smoke still hung in the air. The street was lined with people, neighbors, friends, strangers. Some stood in silence, others sobbed. One woman, an elderly neighbor who had known the family for years, just stood there, blank-faced, shaking. A reporter approached her, shoving a microphone in her face. Reporter: "Ma'am, did you know the family?" The woman nodded, slowly. Elderly neighbor: "They were good people. They didn't deserve this." She looked up at the burned-out house. Then she said something that would stick with the entire town forever. Elderly neighbor: "It doesn't feel real. It feels like a nightmare we can't wake up from." The police had seen grisly murders before. They had seen brutal home invasions, domestic violence, random attacks. But this wasn't just a crime. This was a massacre. A family wiped off the face of the earth. Not for money, not for revenge, for nothing. And the person responsible? They weren't some nameless psychopath. They weren't a stranger passing through town. They were already known to the law, already wanted, already a murderer. And yet, somehow, they were here, free, walking the streets, breathing, while a mother, a father, and 2 little children lay in the morgue. Every monster has a beginning, a moment when they step from the shadows and make their first kill. But what if I told you? This monster, this cold-blooded killer, he didn't just appear out of nowhere. He was already a fugitive, already hunted, already a murderer. And somehow, some way, he had slipped right through the cracks and landed in the quiet town of Irondequoit, New York. No alarms, no alerts. Just a wolf dressed in rags, blending into the herd. And no one, not the police, not the government, not the people who should have been protecting this family, had any idea. His name? Julio Cesar Pimentel-Soriano. Sounds like a mouthful, right? Well, so was his criminal record. This wasn't some desperate man looking for a better life. This was a man with blood on his hands before he even set foot in the United States. A fugitive from the Dominican Republic, wanted for murder. A killing so brutal in 2019 that authorities had been chasing him ever since. But Julio, he was good at running, and better at disappearing. Let's talk about how easy it is to vanish when the system is blind. When the Dominican Republic started sniffing around for him, Julio did what any career criminal would do. He slipped onto a boat, made his way to Puerto Rico. And from there? It was like watching someone play a twisted game of catch me if you can. New fake name, new fake identity. And just like that, he wasn't a murderer anymore. No record, no history, no past. Just another nameless face in a sea of strangers. And the scariest part? It worked. Somehow, some way, Julio Cesar Pimentel-Soriano managed to get his hands on a New York State identification card. Legit? Of course not. But good enough. Good enough to get him a job. Good enough to rent a place. Good enough to walk the streets every day, past mothers pushing strollers, past kids riding bikes, past people who had no idea they were looking into the face of death. He blended in. Because that's what killers do. They don't come with neon signs. They don't wear t-shirts that say, "Hi, I'm a homicidal fugitive." They just wait. Wait for the perfect moment. And then they strike. Here's the question that keeps everyone awake at night. Why them? Why Fraime Ubaldo, his wife Marangely, and their 2 innocent children? Was it a random attack? A crime of opportunity? Or was this something darker? Something personal? Some say Julio worked odd jobs in the area, that he might have known Fraime. Maybe they crossed paths before. Maybe there was bad blood. Or maybe Julio was just hunting, looking for a house, a family, a moment where no one was looking. Because when a killer wants to kill, they find a way. Let's put this into perspective. You're sitting in a coffee shop, sipping your drink. A man walks in, orders his coffee, sits at the table across from you. Casual, normal. You don't look twice, because why would you? But what if I told you? That man, that quiet, harmless-looking man, he has a dead family on his hands. He has a past soaked in blood. And he's right next to you, breathing the same air, walking the same streets, passing your house at night. That was Julio Cesar Pimentel-Soriano. He was right there, and no one saw him for what he really was. A predator in disguise, waiting, watching. And when the time was right, he killed again. Every crime tells a story. And this one was written in blood. 4 lives, stolen, a family reduced to headlines, a home turned into a crime scene. And somewhere out there, the man responsible was still breathing free air, but not for long, because the clock was ticking. Detectives arrived at the scene expecting tragedy. What they got? A nightmare. Firefighters had extinguished the flames, but something was off. See, fire erases things, but not everything. It doesn't wash away blood. It doesn't hide the horror left behind. And as investigators stepped into the charred ruins, the truth revealed itself. The victims weren't killed by the fire. Oh no, they were already dead when the first flame was lit. Slashed, stabbed, a family torn apart. The fire? That was just the cover-up. A sloppy, desperate attempt to erase what couldn't be erased, because no matter how hot the flames burned, evidence always talks. The first mistake? The accelerant. The fire had been set deliberately, but whoever started it, they weren't exactly a criminal mastermind. Forensics found traces of gasoline near the bodies, a clear sign of arson. And then, the real break. Footprints. Someone had walked through the fire. Someone had left a trail. And that someone was about to have a very bad day. There was no security footage from the house itself. Convenient, right? The cameras had burned. But the neighbor's camera, that one survived. And what it captured? A shadow. A man. Pacing near the house. Hours before the fire. And then? A store clerk's memory. A man. Nervous, sweaty, buying a cheap lighter. At first, it seemed like nothing. But when they showed him a picture, his face went pale. Yeah, that's him. The man in the video. The man in the store. The man who had just killed an entire family. And his name? Julio Cesar Pimentel-Soriano. By the time his name hit the system, the floodgates burst open. This wasn't just a random killer. This was a ghost. A man with a bloody past. Wanted for murder in 2019. Vanished. Reappeared under a fake identity. Living right under their noses. Until now. Because now he was running. And a man who's running is a man who's terrified of getting caught. Last known address? Empty. Workplace? Vanished. But then, one mistake. A phone call. Not from Julio himself. Oh no, he was smarter than that. But from someone who knew him. A woman. Frantic. Calling her cousin. The cops are looking for Julio. He's scared. He's trying to leave town. The cousin? Not exactly loyal. One quick tip-off to police. And suddenly, they had him. The sun had barely set when the raid went down. Unmarked cars, tactical units, silence. Julio was holed up in a small apartment, his last hiding spot. But it wasn't a matter of if they'd catch him, only when. Then, bang. Door kicked open. Flashbangs detonate. Julio? Flat against the floor. A desperate look in his eyes, like a cornered animal. But there was no more running. This time, he was done. And just like that, the nightmare was over. Or was it? Because now, the real question began. How did this happen? How did a wanted killer slip through the cracks? How did he make it across borders? How did no one stop him before it was too late? And the biggest question of all, how many more are still out there? Watching, waiting, ready to strike again. The truth was darker than anyone could imagine. Because when the flames died down, the horror was just beginning. The house was gone, charred remains, blackened walls. But that wasn't the worst part. No, the worst part was what they found inside. 4 bodies, not burned, stabbed, repeatedly. A family, butchered. A father, a mother, their children. The fire. It wasn't an accident. It was a cover-up. Someone wanted to erase them, erase everything. But monsters always leave something behind. And this time, the world saw it. The news spread like wildfire. First, it was a local tragedy. Then, it was national. Then, it was everywhere. New York, California, Texas, Florida. Every headline screamed the same thing. A family massacred. A fugitive killer. A system that let him in. And the people were furious. Because this should have never happened. The streets filled with protesters. They held candles. They held signs. They held pictures of Fraime, Marangely, Evangeline and Sebastian. Their faces, frozen in time, smiling, happy, alive. But that was before he came, before Julio Cesar Pimentel-Soriano crossed their path, before the system let him in. Now, those smiles were just memories. And the people, they wanted answers, they wanted justice, and they wanted it now. Then the truth came out. Julio Cesar Pimentel-Soriano wasn't just anyone. He was a wanted man, a killer. Back in the Dominican Republic, he had already taken a life, murdered someone, escaped, vanished. Then, he came here, slipped through Puerto Rico, got fake papers, and built a new life right under our noses. He walked our streets, bought food from our stores, lived among families just like theirs, until one night, he struck again. And this time, it was so much worse. The government scrambled. They tried to explain. They tried to justify. They tried to make excuses. But the truth was inexcusable. He was here illegally. He had a murder record. He should have been caught. He should have been deported. He should have been stopped. But he wasn't. And now, a family was dead, and no one could bring them back. The politicians lined up, press conferences, TV interviews, thoughts and prayers. We will do better. We must fix the system. But the people? The people had enough. Enough of the speeches. Enough of the lies. Enough of waiting for the next tragedy. Because this wasn't new. This wasn't the first time. And unless something changed, it wouldn't be the last. Then came the funerals. 4 caskets, 2 large, 2 tiny, side by side, lowered into the ground, together. Because separating them, even in death, was too painful. The priest spoke, but no one really heard, because there was nothing left to say. Nothing could fix this. Nothing could undo it. The case was closed. The killer was caught. But justice felt hollow. Because nothing had changed. Because next time, there would be a next time. Another face, another family, another headline. And the question that lingers long after the cameras turn off. Who will be next? Because unless something changes, someone else will be. And next time, it might be even worse. 4 lives, gone. A father, a mother, 2 children. Not because of an accident, not because of fate, because of a man who should have never been here. And now, their home is just ashes. Their voices are just echoes. Their names, carved in cold stone. But here's what keeps us up at night. Should this have happened at all? Was this a random act of horror? Or was it something worse? A failure so deep, so preventable, that it makes you question everything. Because think about it. This man wasn't a ghost. He wasn't invisible. He was in the system, on the records, a known killer, a predator. And yet, somehow, he was here, walking freely, until he found them. So, let's be real for a second. If a murderer can sneak past our laws, past our borders, past every single safeguard we're supposed to have, Then what does that say about the system? What does that say about us? It wasn't that no one knew. It's that no one stopped him. And now? 4 people paid the price. With their lives. They say history repeats itself. That tragedies like this, these unthinkable horrors, are just a part of life. But let's be honest. This wasn't fate. This was neglect. This was a preventable massacre. And next time, who's to say it won't be your town, your neighborhood, your family? Because let's be blunt, this isn't the first time. And unless something changes, it won't be the last. There's always a next time, another family, another home, another breaking news story flashing across your screen. So let me ask you, how many more memorials do we need? How many more caskets need to be lowered? How many more children have to die before we say, enough? We can't bring them back. We can't rewind time. But we can make sure their deaths weren't in vain. So tell me, what do you think? Do you believe this tragedy could have been prevented? Should the system have caught him sooner? Or are we doomed to repeat the same mistakes? Drop your thoughts in the comments below. Let's talk about it. And if you want to keep uncovering the darkest crimes, the biggest injustices, and the stories that need to be heard, hit that like button, subscribe, turn on notifications, because trust me, there's so much more to expose. Stay safe, stay aware, and above all, stay vigilant. Because next time, the story being told might be yours.